These two guys have Minnesota sports flowing in their veins. Mackie and Judd on Score North and ScoreNorth.com.
A chance for Brodin, and they score! Evason on the rebound, and the Wild tie it 1-1. Kaprizov fires, scores! Back to the line for Merrill. Merrill shot, scores! Brodin fires, scores! Out to the line, Brodin, a shot that hit a stick on the way. Foligno scores!
You know what that means.
You know what I mean?
Get the flags.
Oh boy, here it is.
Get the
there it
flags.
is. Look at that. See, this is a flag, so I can wave this with more enthusiasm. Not because I like the Wild more than the Wolves, but because the actual flag.
Number one in the Central. Number one in the West. And number one in our hearts. The top scoring team in the NHL. The Minnesota Wild.
There we go.
Come get some. That's right.
You want some? You want some of this? You want some of this? You want a taste?
You like how that tastes?
You like
how that tastes? We need a Dean Evason clip like this.
So, I heard it all week long, right? 0-9 on Monday night. Yeah!
You like that?
You like how this tastes?
Like how that tastes, eh?
You like that?
You like that?
Good news for you guys here on Mackie and Judd. Daily Minnesota Sports Celebration. The Hockey Whisperer has 4 observations on the current state of the Minnesota Wild.
Beautiful.
Would you like them 4 through 1 or 1 through 4?
Well,
or start with 2 and kind of skip around.
Well, how are they structured? Like, is 4 like, that's okay, and 1 is like, oh my god, I can't believe that is what a great observation? Or
I would say that
structured?
three of them are positive. 1 is a question.
Okay,
I wouldn't say a concern, or maybe it's a concern, but do you want to start with the concern? No,
Sure,
we'll leave that for the end. I don't want to. They just
as I said,
they're on a roll right now. I'm not going to start with the concern.
As I said to Dex on Judd's hockey show last night, the great thing right now is for like every complaint or concern, it's offset by 4 good things. That's the good thing.
And that's that's the ratio of the observations.
Exactly. Here. So see, it's all, for the most part, it's incredibly positive.
Okay. So as we've done throughout the year here, the Hockey Whisperer trying to recalibrate things after having gone on a basketball vacation for a bit. He will throw out some observations about the Wild, and you guys have to tell him, okay, is that pretty honed? Is it spot on? Is the Hockey Whisperer in need of some calibration? Let's start with the first one here. This is, I think without hyperbole, the most dangerous offensive team in Wild history. Now, they statistically currently lead the NHL in goals. But even guys who don't traditionally score a lot of goals, like the Ryan Hartmans, Eriksson Ek, like these guys are on pace for 30 goals this season. In fact, it's funny, like Fiala only has, 3 or 4 goals. Like at some point, you'd think that he's going to come around unless they trade him. There's like 5 guys that are on pace to either surpass or flirt with 30-ish goals. Mm-hmm. It just feels like whatever they're doing, spreading the love, just the depth of this team. I know that they've had, like, Gaborik was a big name, and they've had some goal scorers, and Parisi, the way that he went about it. But this feels like the most dangerous, deepest offensive team in Wild history. Is that hyperbole?
I don't think so. I would call it this, though. STS. Structure, because the structure is good. Trust, because they trust everyone. And systems. Structure, trust, and systems. And
okay, so, PJ Fleck.
So in STS, well, at least I didn't end with a D. Because that would be good.
That's what I thought you were.
That wouldn't be good. Okay, and I could have said devotion or something, but it wouldn't have been that good. So STS
defense.
But for instance, last night on the score sheet, so like post game when you picked up the score sheet, you had 10 guys with points. 10 guys with points. Greenway didn't have a goal till last night. Last night, a goal and 2 assists. So I would say that there's 2 things. The Kaprizov component is incredibly important because he's, again, red hot now. He's doing great. But the other thing is they are taking guys, and if a guy is out, they move a guy up. Rem Pitlick, he's gone from like fourth line, third line, first line. And unlike the old days, nobody's there to say, why is he playing there? Do we really trust him there? Dino basically plugs them in and says, do your job. And because the players are emboldened, they do it. So Kaprizov is a starting point of like a game changer. But Dex, I think beyond that, to the Whisperer's point, I think the important thing here too is the level of trust that this team has in what's turning out to be good players to accomplish their job without the distrust of, oh boy, you were a fourth line guy, and I don't know if I should play with you.
I would say it's the deepest team they've probably had. I don't know if it's the most dangerous team they've had yet. And I say that simply because Fiala isn't scoring at the level he should be at. Kirill is generating a lot of assists, but still isn't scoring a ton of goals necessarily.
Doesn't that make them more dangerous, though? Like, they're leading the NHL in goals, and those guys have barely joined the party.
Yeah. And I think if there's a sleeping dragon to be awoken with those two guys, and even someone like Matthew Boldy, who's playing well in Iowa, Marco Rossi's off to a hot start. Your top two prospects are basically looking like they're ready to being plugged and played into the big club right now with how they're playing in the AHL. But you need your top players to score big goals. You just need them to. And right now, Fiala and Kaprizov analytically look great, and they're getting robbed on chances, that's for sure. But you need those two guys to also wake up. If those two guys start scoring at the same pace that Hartman's and Foligno's and everyone else is, then yes, it is the most dangerous team. But I think it's the deepest. I'm still waiting to see if it's the most dangerous.
The problem is who challenges them, though? Like, past teams. Like, I can't think of one. Like,
like 20 years of wild hockey isn't like littered with explosive
Gaborik
offenses.
could score, but Kaprizov is so, like, the Kaprizov thing is intriguing because he got off to a slow start, but he's still a superior player to the vast majority of players in franchise history. And so, and the thing too is, if you watch this team play, I think for like the last 2 years or so, they've been aggressive about allowing their defensemen freedom to jump into plays, but now it's crazy. Like, it's fun now. Last night, the first goal, which was scored by Eck, the defenseman tried to bank the puck off the near boards in his zone, and it didn't have a true bounce, and so Eck intercepted it, and Kulikov, of all people, comes flying down the slot and is screaming and gets the puck, gets a shot, rebound to Eck, who scores. Like, that's the type of opportunistic play that if you made with Jacques, he would have freaked out and benched you probably.
Can I say that Kulikov is one of the best hockey names? It
it's
feels like a
Dmitry
creative
Kulikov,
player on
like
NHL 95 or something.
You like that?
Oh, yeah. That's a great
Kulikov.
Kulikov.
Dmitry Kulikov.
Dmitry
All right,
Kulikov.
observation number 2 here. Okay, Hockey Whisperer. It sounds like there was a little bit of debate there. Like, Judd maybe thinks the Hockey Whisperer is right. Declan feels like it's a little aggressive, wants to see more.
I liked it.
Okay. Observation number 2, quite simply, Dean Evason must be doing something right in his 2+ years. So, did you guys know of all of the active coaches in the NHL right now, Dean Evason has the highest point percentage. Now, asterisk, he's only coached like 90 games. You know, guys like John Cooper have coached 600 games. So, a little bit of a small sample size alert there, but I mean, you know, even if there's some regression, like the roster's good, but he's clearly pushing the right buttons. He clearly has a command of the room, so to speak. So he must be doing some things right, is what the Hockey Whisperer observes.
I think, Dino, we were a little surprised when the season got paused in 2020 because of COVID, and then when the bubble came back, when the Wild were going to be part of that I believe it was just a week or so before practices started again, that they removed the interim label and slapped on a 2-year contract immediately onto Dean Evason. And I think Judd had more questions than I did about how, well, that seems a little sudden. Like, why not just keep the interim label? There's no point. You're going to this bubble situation. It's a 3-game situation, worst case scenario. Why don't you go vet and find the process? But instead, they just gave a 2-year contract to Dean Evason, and it looks like Dean is pushing all the right buttons. I mean, he has definitely exceeded my expectations of what he is as a head coach. I would actually, because he signed that 2-year extension, this is the last year of his contract. He's not under contract, I believe, for next season yet. So I bet a contract extension is probably coming in the works for Dean Evason. But hockey coaches are also volatile. Like, 1 year guys look great. Next year they're getting fired. So in general, I think Dean is doing a hell of a job. Him and Bill Guerin seem to kind of have a handcuff of this team of this is what we want from our players.
Can I explore the space here? Because I would like to point out as well.
Your name's on the show. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Whisperer.
Do what you got to do.
It's your favorite sport, but it's fine.
Whisperer, I would like to point out here too that what we are seeing at the X in St. Paul, and I know it's across from, it's across the river. There's a rivalry here, but I think the people who run the Vikings should take a long, hard look at the relationship between Bill Guerin and his head coach. This is what happens when you have two people on the same page completely. And Bill Guerin, to his credit, did not hire Dean. Paul Fenton did. And that's why I was surprised, because I'm like, do you know enough about Dean at this point to promote him? Clearly Bill did. So that's the right move. But second of all, the most important thing right now is it is just so crystal clear that the GM and head coach are in lockstep, that they are on the same page every day, that when it comes to every player, and I'm sure they debate things, so I'm not saying that it's perfect, but it feels like every decision that's made is made in unison of this is what's going to be best for us to win games. Not, well, I'd like more defense. Yeah, but I mean, we really should go sign a guard. I just plug a guy in there. Not that.
Or I got to defer to
Right.
These 4 veteran players who
But you
want to
guys-
practice in Edina or whatever the hell. Stupid crap.
But look at this team right now, and look at how it's run. And it's not that it's full of star players, but the chemistry's really good, and it feels like everything from the top on down is working in sync.
Mm-hmm.
And far too often we don't see that. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's the real important thing here, that it's not just Dean. It's not like, well, Dean's great. No, Bill and Dean together are doing the exact job that any fan base should desire from a GM and coach.
Yeah. That's those are all fair points, and it helps obviously. Like to take over a roster with talent like Kaprizov and some of these dudes are like it helps
but
jack
Fiala,
your winning percentage up. But
to Dex's point, Fiala's not scoring, and you're still scoring a ton.
Yeah,
and tied atop the conference. That's pretty damn impressive.
All right, the third observation, it's I wouldn't go as far as calling it a concern, but the Hockey Whisperer wonders a little about goaltending. He wonders a little about goaltending here. That Cam Talbot's just kind of a guy.
He honed Dex. He's honed today.
And I think the worry would be, first of all, he basically spots opposing teams like 2 or 3 goals a night. Like he's not shutting anyone out. Very rarely is he allowing anything less than 2 goals, right? So you got to score 4 or 5 goals to feel like, okay, you're for sure going to win. And I think the question would be, are there teams in the Western Conference that are going to want to play, let's say, muddier hockey, or they want to play a 2-1 game in a 7-game series? And can Cam Talbot make 34 saves on 36 shots or something and win a game 3-2 or 2-1 4 times in a playoff series? That's the wonder. Sometimes you get into the right series and you get against the right opponent, they can shut down your offense from scoring 5 goals because it's less loosey-goosey in the playoffs. So he's not concerned because the overall team is playing slow, but he wonders a little about goaltending.
So I think the concern is legit. Like, I agree completely.
It's not a concern. He's wondering. He's wondering about
I think
goaltending.
broaching a topic of concern. I'll rephrase. I think bringing up a topic that clearly shows a concern, but is masked with a question and a bailout of a guy who doesn't.
He just wants a little more information.
The Whisperer is being very, very fair. Now, I'll say a couple things to that, and then turn it to Dex because he's got some great stats about this. But keep in mind, Cam in the playoffs last year against the Golden Knights was not the problem. He played pretty damn well. I think he had a couple of shutouts, and Is Cam Talbot the be-all, end-all goaltender? Absolutely not. Is he a consistent liability? No. The game has also changed now where offense is back enough that I don't think you're going to see, like you'll see tight games, but I don't think you'll see the consistent old school 2003. Couldn't get one by Jiggy because his pads are so big and his jersey's dangling below his legs.
Jiggy.
So I don't have like a great concern, but do I think, as I put it to Dex on Judd's Hockey Show last night, do I think that the Wild's front office is in love with Talbot? No. Do I think they like him? Yes. The backup goaltender also is probably more, or not probably, is a concern. But Dex, I'll defer to you, your thoughts on the Whisperers' question about Cam Talbot.
Observation.
It's a concern.
Hypothesis.
It's a legit point from the Whisperer.
I think Cam Talbot over the last few weeks looks a lot better. He got off to kind of a slow start. It's kind of like starting pitchers that allow a lot of runs but get wins, right? Like he's got
like
a lot
Jack
of wins.
Morris in the '80s, right? He pitches to the score, is what you're saying.
Like when
He's got a 5 ERA, but 20 wins.
Like when Kevin Slowey and Glenn Perkins first came up and were like 8-2, but at ERAs of near 5, like in 2008, right?
What are you dragging Glenn Perkins' name through this?
Friend of the show, you just brought him down.
I have no problem with
Total
Perk.
drive-by right there.
All-star closer,
God,
and you just
come
ripped
on,
him from
come on.
Just like out of no, we're talking hockey here, and you just drag a
Oh,
friend of the show,
God.
Glenn Perkins.
That's like Boone at guard for the Vikings. It wasn't as good as it should
What
have
does
been.
he know? So Talbot, so far this season, through 17 games, and this is a metric that's a good one, is goals saved above expected. So this basically takes league average shots and translates it to, can a goalie stop a league average shot from a normal location? And for the majority of the season, Cam Talbot was negative in this statistic, meaning he was allowing goals from areas that he should not be allowing, that an average goalie should stop. Now through 17 games, he's above 0, which means he's stopping all the pucks he should be stopping. Should that number be higher if you want more belief that he can be someone that can steal you more games? Yes, you do want that number to be higher. My bigger fear is that they basically burn out Cam Talbot. It's a situation like he was in Edmonton where I believe he finished 4th for Vezina that year, but he had like 71 starts. By the time they got to the playoffs, the Oilers they got burned out. Like Cam played 71 games, he got absolutely burned out. Kaapo Kähkönen has looked better. I had fears that he was a legitimate goaltender going into this season. He's looked fine, but I don't know if that's someone that you can also rely on to give you 25, 30 starts, which is about that split you would want, because you need 2 goaltenders to at least get you to the playoffs. Like if Kaapo has to start multiple playoff games, well, things went wrong. Things are probably not going according to plan. But you need 2 goaltenders to basically have like a 50-30 split, even maybe 55-35 split, because that's kind of the area you want to be in. If
I think your math
if
is
you're
a little
going
off there.
45-35. Yeah, I understand that where I was there. St. Cloud State, go Huskies. but that's the point, though. Like, you can't have a goaltender starting 60 to 70 games, because outside of that, then you're going to get into situations where that's bad.
And maybe you can. That's the thing. Is there a backup that you can snag before the deadline to get you 10
easily.
starts down the stretch or something?
That's what I'm thinking now. A veteran. I think if these guys are in as good a shape as they are right now, I'm not going to be surprised if they trade for a veteran who's not a starter now, but is a former starter and that they can lean on. Because if this league goes and takes the break and goes to the Olympic Games, which they shouldn't do, but they still might do. Look at that schedule in March. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy.
Like back-to-backs and stuff.
Back-to-back, you cannot have one. Like you can't have a 1-2. At that point, it's got to be a 1A, 1B. So I think that that's probably right. I wouldn't be one bit surprised if they trade for a goaltender on a short-term deal who was a starter and is now a backup but can play reliably behind Talbot. That won't shock me.
Observation number 4 here from the Hockey Whisperer. The final observation today. Mikko Koivu now gets it. Let me direct you guys to The Athletic this morning. I'm just going to read a couple paragraphs here. After the playoff bubble 2 summers ago, when the Wild were quickly dispatched by the Canucks, Bill Guerin didn't mince words when he publicly proclaimed, quote, There definitely have to be changes. We haven't had success here. Real quick side note there. I love that the GM is looking at a playoff team and saying we haven't had success, because his definition of success isn't making the playoffs for like 7 years.
Yeah.
It's why haven't we been to a conference final? Why haven't we been to a cup? Why haven't we hoisted a cup? We are the state of hockey. It's
Rick, are you listening, Rick? Rick, hello, Rick.
High bar, high expectations. All right, back into the article. Guerin then methodically yet in remarkably quick fashion changed out the old guard. Koivu, gone. Stahl, Dubnyk, Parise, Suter, gone. At the time, Koivu was stung. Guerin hasn't hidden the fact that the Wild desperately needed a culture change, and fair or not, the man who most represented that culture was the steely, blue-eyed, blonde, thin Koivu with the captain's C stitched to his chest. Quote from Koivu, "It was very hard at the time. It was obviously emotional getting let go. But once you get a couple weeks in, a couple months in, then I had a chance to talk with Bill after. Then you start to realize why they have to make those tough decisions. And now he sees the product on the ice." Yeah. And so, I just think he gets it now. He kind of sort of sees what Bill Guerin saw 18 months ago.
The only frustrating thing is Phil, when did we start our show?
2014, or January, February.
What would be the first year when you would say that your partner started to get it and started to
2008
and started to say exactly what Bill Guerin saw, like
2006,
and
Koivu's first year.
Yeah, but that's the thing. So no, but I mean, it was probably 17, 18 where it started to go a little bit, and it's like, this is ridiculous. This is why, for all of the fans who are like, oh, the captaincy, who cares? Just leave it on Koivu. He's fine. No, it's not fine. Again, it's as you say, Phil, a gravitational pull towards mediocrity. Yep. It's a gravitational pull, and the people who are in the eye of the storm can't see it. They can't. It's impossible. So like Koivu and Parise, they were all running the show. Times were good, man. Times were good. They were getting special treatment. It takes someone to come in and be like, this isn't right. This doesn't seem right. Captaincies have to be stripped. I also think from an organizational standpoint, that's why it's a mistake to retire his number. It's all about greatness. I guarantee you the hockey ops department, the current one of this team, is going along with the PR move of, well, Koivu played here a long time. He's popular, and March 13th, we're going to sell out. Oh, this is going to be great. We're going to sell out to raise that number.
That's part of it, yeah.
But it is but retiring the number 9 continues the organizational philosophy that's been there far too long of a country club of pulling towards good enough. This is why you create, and I'll give the Vikings credit here. This is why you create Ring of Honors.
Because I was just going to say, yes.
Because it's great to recognize those. But retiring Koivu's number, and it's 9, which in this sport is hockey royalty, is a clear sign that organizationally they still don't get it. Now, I think Bill Guerin gets it. I think Dean does, and I think the people who are running hockey ops do. But this is what we fight against every day here on this show. This is what we have been struggling. And so many people are like, well, yeah, you guys, it's fine. You're so negative. I got called the most negative person among people ever on Twitter yesterday.
It's amazing how setting high expectations
is negative,
is viewed as being negative.
But like all of these
it's
people are still like,
exact opposite.
Koivu deserves this. No, he deserves a day and a night, and that's awesome. He deserves to be recognized. Retiring a number is basically ascending to the heaven of your sports teams. And just because 20 years in, you've had nobody who qualifies, that doesn't mean we have to do it. Mm-hmm. Set a bar of greatness. And even if you don't achieve it, set the bar there so you can attempt to achieve it.
Is there like a Wild or Minnesota Hockey Hall of Fame? Because I agree with you. Retiring someone's jersey is... to me, that's championship. If you helped the team win championships, or you were a Hall of Fame caliber player in your sport, okay, let's hang the jersey number. But if you're Michael Kadire, and you were just like a really good,
funny. I just thought of the same name.
Yeah, like he's Michael.
Great guy.
Michael Kadire was a really good 10-year Twin, and Koivu was with the Wild for longer than that. Just a rock solid player. Kadire went to one All-Star game, just 20 home runs, didn't really, do anything meaningful, and didn't win a World Series or anything.
That's so funny.
Dumb question: has Mikko Koivu's been to an All-Star game? Hasn't he? Has he been to an All-Star game?
I saw a tweet that said he had, and I would have to.
I don't think he has.
Whoa! Whoa!
I would have. Let's look that up quick. Just to
Never
confirm.
made an All-Star game. Never was I think it was a finalist 1 year for Selke. I don't even know if he was a Selke. Was he a Selke finalist?
No,
once?
hell no.
Yeah, he was never a finalist for a major award.
He was really good, but the Selke goes again. He's not an elite player.
Okay. Looks like he made an All-Star team in
got
2008 and 9.
And didn't play.
So what? So he was.
So what? He's good player. He's a very good player.
And so he was, in terms of Selke,
once.
He was a finalist.
He was a so finalist is top 3, right?
Yep.
Yes.
He was a finalist in 16, 17.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
He's a very
They
good
need like
player.
a Ring of Honor or something.
He was a very and the problem too is and this is not his fault, but the reality is the number 9 in hockey is one of the most exclusive, greatest. It's like Gordie Howard, okay? It is the equivalent of the number 3 in baseball. Killebrew, Ruth. You're basically taking out of circulation a number that should go to one of your greatest players, and that guy is yet to come, which by the way is life. That's fine.
Why do Minnesota sports glum on to mediocrity?
I don't know.
Because it's all we're
happy
used
to be
to,
here.
and we accept it.
Yeah.
Because it's all we're used to for the most part.
Oh shucks, we're happy to be here.
Because we want something to celebrate. It's a really good question. I'm just spitballing.
Like I told you guys before we jumped on for the show here, and we will get to write that down predictions here shortly when we admit that we were wrong.
You've inflamed my passions though right now.
It's like I have probably had 1,000 tweets like this week since the Vikings lost on Sunday because been hard on Kirk. Kirk played like garbage in the second half. Like the season doesn't end on a win against Green Bay. Let's go. Let's keep the train moving, dude. Don't melt down. Don't throw a bad interception. Don't line up behind the right guard. And The Athletic has a couple great articles, too, about just like he's been better in the clutch this year. But overall, throughout his career and his time with the Vikings, his numbers and the team's performance in like 2-minute drills at the end of the game are not good. And so I just retweeted the article from Chad Graff and Evason. Interesting stuff here on Cousins. And the response that's getting the most traction. Here's some more interesting stuff on Kirk Cousins. Game-winning drives since 2015. Cousins, 18. Brady, 14. Fourth quarter comeback since 2015. Cousins, 12. Brady, 12. Okay?
Yep.
I think you might be missing one key stat between Kirk Cousins and Tom Brady.
Right.
Just one. Well, rings.
Just one.
How about trips to your conference final, to the AFC or NFC conference championship?
But why do we think?
Why are we celebrating that?
But why do we also have this default position of, because nobody's saying Kirk is bad. We're saying this is disappointing. Why is the default fight basically saying Phil Mackey is saying that Kirk sucks, or Judd is saying that Koivu sucks? I'm not saying that. He was a good player. That doesn't mean that you rise to your jersey number going to the rafters. That doesn't mean that Kirk gets a free pass for Sunday's game. Like, that's what we're saying. We expect more. Why is expecting more a problem?
It's weird, dude.
That seems to be the.
I almost feel like it's like a Midwestern modesty thing. It's like
that's exactly what it is.
We're afraid to set a high bar because it's arrogant or something. Like only those coastal elites set high bars. Like, we are stoic,
but then
Scandinavian people that just shovel crap into our mouth with these sports teams.
But then we complain about our sports teams as an entity not achieving greatness. Like, well, the Vikings won't win a championship again. Well, no, they're not going to win a championship because the formula is not right.
If you're like, to your point about Koivu, and then we can get to write that down. It's not. there should be no reason to crap on Koivu. Like, he was a really good Wild player for 15 years. Yeah, I wish he would have scored a couple more goals here and there. Yeah, could he have been a better leader? Yeah, there's things to nitpick, but he was a really good player. Mm-hmm. You bring it on yourselves. If your franchise genuinely had a championship mindset and a championship drive and everything, which, by the way, I think it's funny because I think as they're raising the Mikko Koivu jersey into the rafters, I do think they are building more of a championship. Bill Guerin knows what it looks like. And so I do think they are building it off of the side here. But it's like, if you're all about championships, you would probably not hang the jersey of a guy that went to one All-Star game and finished with his positional major award as a finalist once in 15 years, right?
Correct.
No.
Well, my personal opinion is this. If you are going to have your jersey retired, one of two things or both have to have occurred. One, you are a Hall of Fame player. So like you are going into or you are in that team's hall. Or I'm sorry, you're in that sports hall. The second one is if you won a championship. Herbeck is, to me, a perfect example of great player. He's not going to Cooperstown, but he won 2 World Series. I personally think Mauer is a Hall of Fame catcher. But if you just meet the criteria of I worked here a long time and I was a good, I mean, that would be like me being inducted into the Star Tribune Hall. Well, Judd worked here a long time.
You broke some big stories, though.
But I'm saying I was. Yeah, I think I won some faceoffs. I don't deserve to be in the Star Tribune Hall of Fame. I just don't. Like, that's not in the cards, and it's not right.
Now the Judd's Hockey Show Hall of Fame.
That's story. Well, that's because of
damn elite.
That's because of Dex.
Yeah,
but I don't think it's a dig against the guy to say, or a person to say, they shouldn't get the ultimate honor. Look, the Wolves, right? Tragically, Malik Sealy died. And I think it's appropriate then to do something special. That's totally different. Corey Stringer, same thing, right? So I totally get that. But Garnett's 21 should be retired. But they haven't forced other jerseys up there. Like they're not trying to be like, well, Sam Mitchell did a lot for us. He played here a long time, 2 stints.
I mean, the Wolves probably do need to put someone's jersey up there at some point. All right,
but it's just Garnett's. But I'm more with the Wolves. I'm more with the Wolves on make it right. Garnett deserves it, and it's really sad that 21 is not up there.
What about Corey Brewer? He scored 51 times
against the Rockets. Big game.
Put it up there.
But anyway, yeah, it's frustrating because people always hear Mackey and Judd and Declan think players are bad. It's not what we're saying. We're saying achieve greatness.
I think there's something to be said too about like Minnesota Nice, and if you go anywhere else in the country, the South, West Coast, East Coast, wherever, you'll find that Minnesota Nice in the most blatant term is a bunch of BS. It's fake nice. It's phony. It's not legitimate.
Sometimes it's insecurity.
It's not authentic. Yeah, it's not authentic, I think is probably the best way I can say it. It's not authentic.
Insincere, yeah.
We'll give you directions to anywhere that's not our own home because we don't want to inconvenience ourselves.
Neighborhood.
Like,
I don't want you near my
right.
house.
I don't trust you.
Right. Yeah.
I don't
stay away. No. Stay away.
It's fake.
Yeah, but it's perfect because it keeps people away while thinking they're close. I actually enjoy that part of it.
Yeah. You're the epitome of it.
Oh,
that's
I know.
Minnesota Nice.
Yeah, right. How you doing? What's going on?
You want to help them out, but
how's
really,
your day going?
Do not talk to me. I don't want to deal with you. When you can just say, "Don't talk to me. I don't want to deal with you."
Nah, but then you come off like a East Coast,
like a normal, real person instead of being fake.
Yeah, people know. Now you're just being fake, and they know.
Yeah,
own it.
No,
set a high bar.
Because when I walk by you and ask, "How are things going?"
Hello.
I'm not going to wait for a response, and I don't give you a chance to talk to me.
Hello.
Oh, it's
Hello.
very important.
It's the Judd.
Hello.
I love the Judd. Hello.
Hello.
When he walks
Good morning.
by someone.
Hey,
how are you?
Who's worked here for 7
What's
years
going
and doesn't
on?
know their name.
What's going? Yeah, I don't know their names, and you know what's not important. It's not important. You're a coworker.
It's hilarious. All right, we gotta admit that we were wrong here.
Okay.
Coming up next on Write That Down, Mackey and Judd.